Hi, it's math time with Mrs. Depperschmidt. Today we're going to work with fractions again, and specifically equivalent fractions. We're going to learn how to multiply to find equivalent fractions. We've been working at school with our fraction models, our bars, that line up or don't line up to compare and discover which fractions are equivalent to each other. But when we're not using our models anymore, there's a trick to find equivalent fractions with multiplication. It's important to remember that you must do the same thing, same thing, same thing, same thing. Whatever you do with the numerator, you must also do to the denominator. Here we go. We're going to start with this fraction, 1/3. And you must remember, we will do the same thing to both the numerator and the denominator. Here we go. We are going to multiply by 2 on the numerator, which means we must multiply by 2 on the denominator. I've written it like this. 1 times 2 equals 2 for the numerator, and 3 times 2 equals 6. You must always do the same thing to both. Hey, could we multiply again? When we did multiply by 2, we got an equivalent fraction we'll call 2/6. And you could make that with your paper models and discover that indeed 1/3 is equivalent to 2/6. Let's find out if we could multiply again. Yes, we can. And here we go. We can start with 1/3, which is equivalent to 2/6, but this time let's multiply by 100. Whatever we do to the numerator, we must do the same thing to the denominator, and we get another equivalent fraction, 200/600. Wow, those numbers are way too big to do with models in any kind of a simple fashion. So you just need to know that as long as you multiply the same thing on the numerator and denominator, you will always come out with an equivalent fraction if you've done the multiplication correctly. I want you to think about how many times can we do this? Will we have to stop with 200/600? Think about that, and I'd like to hear your thoughts when we talk about this at school. In the same way that we can multiply for equivalent fractions, we can divide to find the simplest form of a complicated fraction. This time we'll talk about using division. Please remember, you must do the same thing to both the numerator and denominator. Same thing, same thing, and same thing. Whatever you do to the numerator must be repeated exactly the same way with the denominator. Let's start with 80/100. That's a crazy fraction that would be very difficult to do with the paper model. Here's a reminder, you must do the same thing to both the numerator and the denominator, and it's going to look like this. We will say, just choose anything that we know is going to work the same way on both. Let's divide by 4. Okay, on the new denominator, we will divide by 4. We must do the same thing. That's only one option for this particular fraction. You might notice that you could also choose to divide by 10 if you were doing it your own self. For this, we'll use divided by 4. 80 divided by 4 is 20. 100 divided by 4 leaves 25. So a simpler form of the fraction 80/100 is 20 25ths. It's referring to exactly the same amount of something, or the same fraction or part. I'm wondering about this with our 20 25ths. Could we divide again? What do you think? Yes, we can. We know that 20 and 25 can both be divided by 5. For this kind of division, you must always be able to do it with no remainders. It must come out exactly even in order to use division for simplifying a fraction. I'm not going to show the answer for this one, but I would like you to be prepared for this kind of problem when you come to school, and we'll work on simplifying fractions. I'm really excited to work with fractions because they're getting to be more and more fun. I'm excited with your hard work and so glad to see you at school. Please remember, be kind.